One time I was behind the register at Victoria's Secret. This customer walks in and immediately everybody spots her as a red flag. She's just picking up items, throwing them in her bag, not looking at sizes, not looking at colors. So everybody's like, Everyone's on their walkie like, watch this customer. She's coming to the fitting room. She's headed to the cash wrap. Somebody get her. Check her ID. Get her. Get her. She has a bag full of stuff. And guess who gets her at the register? Me. So she comes to my register and she dumps out her stuff and we're having a regular conversation. Hi, how are you? Yada, yada, yada. Her total comes up to probably between $700 to $900. It was expensive. My manager is at the register next to me talking to me on the walkie. Ashley, make sure you get that ID. Don't matter what she's using, make sure you get that ID. So I ask her for the ID because she's paying credit. Why do you need to ask for my ID? Just take it, run it. I'm like, no ma'am, I'm sorry, I need your ID for the purchase. She starts to raise her voice at me. So she's raising her voice at me and I'm like, but I just couldn't, y'all. So I was like, I can raise my voice too. Do you want to play this game? Cause I'll win, promise. And she's like, oh, well, what time do you get off work? And I'm like, I'm closing, I'm actually getting off at 11. Would you like to pick me up? And then she calls me stupid. She's like, you're fucking stupid. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna eat that. Then she calls me a dumb bitch. Whew. So I took a deep breath and I said, fuck you, you dumbass bitch. Your broke ass can't even afford these motherfucking clothes and you over here trying to scam me. Fuck off my line. And honestly, me and her just started going back and forth at each other like, My manager's like, go to the back, go to the back, go to the back. I'm still cursing her out as I'm walking to the back of the store. I really thought I would get fired, but I actually didn't.
Of the client I should have said no to as soon as I saw her book an appointment. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me on Instagram. Before I started doing makeup, I had gotten a job waitressing at a local restaurant. And for those of you who have ever worked in the food service industry, you know just how competitive being a waitress can be. I was a really hard worker and just a few months after me working there, I had been promoted to shift manager. This really made some of the other waitresses mad, especially this one girl who I remembered from high school that I knew of, but I didn't really know her, you know what I mean? And that's where the story time really begins. It's important to note that I was in a relationship at the time I started working at the restaurant. Let's just call my boyfriend Devin. And when I applied to work there, he had told me that one of his exes used to work there and he wasn't really sure if she still did or not. Knowing this before going into the job, I didn't really make it a point to be friends with any of the other waitresses that worked there. Flash forward, I've graduated cosmetology school. Devin and I are still happily together and we just moved into our first 2-bedroom apartment where I had turned the second bedroom into a full makeup room and had started doing clients' makeup out of our home. I was getting about 2 to 3 clients a day on the weekdays and about 5 or 6 on the weekends. This included Fridays. One day as I'm going through my appointment books for the next week, I noticed that one of the girls I had worked with at the restaurant prior to becoming a makeup artist had scheduled an appointment for the coming Friday. I thought that was pretty interesting because like I'd said, I never really made it a point to be friends with anyone I had worked with there, and it never really seemed like any of them liked me very much either. On the day of her appointment, she arrives at my apartment 30 minutes early. I was still working on the client before her, so I just had her wait on the couch in my living room. As soon as I finished up with the client before her, I went into the living room and I greeted her promptly. Instead of saying, hi, how are you, how have you been, the first thing she asked me was, how long is this going to take because I'm in a hurry. Let me just tell you that all of my clients receive a text notification before coming into their appointment. It includes a short waiver that they all must sign before arriving to their appointment, and it also lets them know that a full service of makeup will take about an hour to an hour and a half, so please schedule your appointment accordingly. I reminded her of this, but instead of acknowledging it, she just very quickly changed the subject. As I'm walking her back to the makeup room, she starts looking around and asking me if I live here alone or if there's someone else in the apartment. That's when I told her that I live here with my boyfriend. It was the same guy I dated when I worked at the restaurant, and I asked if she remembered him. She very rudely said, no, I didn't know you had a boyfriend. I'm surprised you could get one, and then tried to laugh it off like it was just supposed to be a joke. I was really confused why she was talking to me like this, especially since she was the one who scheduled an appointment with me. About halfway through her makeup, she starts getting on her phone, looking down a lot, and I couldn't really get to her face. I usually try to stay out of people's business, but I couldn't help myself and I looked down at her phone screen. The name at the top of the text messages said Devin. Instead of saying anything about it, I just started reading the text messages as I was doing her eyeshadow. That's when I realized that this was the ex my boyfriend had warned me about before I started working at the restaurant. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Not only was this crazy bitch in my apartment, my boyfriend was texting her. I was finishing up her makeup, I just couldn't help myself but to look down at her phone screen. That's when I realized that this was the ex my boyfriend had warned me about when I worked at the same restaurant as her. And not only that, but she was literally texting my boyfriend right in front of my face as I was doing her makeup. Let me just remind you that I do makeup out of my own home, and me and my boyfriend live together, so he was literally in the other room. I didn't really know how to react in this situation, but what I had decided to do was just wait until she left and then talk to him about it. More like kick him out, but you know what I mean. I finished up her makeup as fast as I possibly could, because at this point, honestly, I just wanted her out of my apartment and as far away from me as possible. After she paid me and was literally walking out the front door, this girl had the audacity to turn around and say, "What did you say your boyfriend's name was?" Maybe I do remember him. Thinking that I had absolutely no idea what was going on. Looking back now, I think she may have been texting him in front of me on purpose, like to let me know what was going on. But with the amount of attitude this girl was having, I'm not really sure if she was trying to help me. As soon as she left, I turned around to go talk to Devin. As soon as I reached for the bedroom doorknob, he opened the door from the other side. He was completely dressed and ready to go, and that's when I asked him, "Where are we going?" At this point, I was trying to play it cool, but just hold on a second. He told me that while I was doing my last client's makeup, his friends texted and asked if he wanted to come over and play Xbox. How coincidental that his side piece was literally texting him 10 minutes ago, and now he has somewhere to be. I almost just let him walk out the door and packed up his stuff while he was gone, but to be completely honest, I wouldn't have been satisfied with that. Right before he reached to open the front door, I stopped him and asked him who the hell he was just texting because I saw him texting my last client. His face got completely bright red and his eyes got huge, and I saw for a split second he was thinking about literally just running away from me. I could literally see the wheels turning in his head about what lie he was about to spew, so I came up with a lie first. I told him while I was doing her makeup, I saw all the text messages of him saying "I love you," and then I told him that I already asked the girl about it and she confirmed everything. That's when he completely folded. He thought he had been 100% caught in this lie, so he just went ahead and came clean about everything. He told me that he had been seeing this girl on the side ever since I worked with her at the restaurant, and that it was exciting for him to know that he might get caught since we worked together. But after I started doing makeup, he had to find a way to keep it exciting, so he had her call and schedule an appointment with me. I literally couldn't believe what I was hearing because this is the most effed up situation I've ever been in. Before he left to go over to her house, I had him pack up all of his stuff and take it with him. I haven't heard from that girl or Devin ever since that day, and quite honestly, I hope I never do. One of my favorite things about being a makeup artist is getting to talk to and get to know so many different clients. When I first started doing makeup, I would work on set at photo shoots about once a month. These weren't totally regular photo shoots though, if I'm being completely honest. I worked with a photographer who mostly did boudoir shoots. I may or may not be pronouncing that right, honestly I couldn't tell you. But if you don't know what that is, it's basically pictures taken in lingerie. A lot of the clients that would come and take these photos either had a special occasion or a special someone who they intended to share these with. Doing a full face of makeup and sometimes helping with the girl's hair would usually take me about an hour to an hour and a half. And I would get into some pretty interesting conversations with these people that I had just met. Seriously, sometimes it seemed like the conversation would go directly from "what is your normal everyday makeup" to "I slept with my boyfriend's brother last week." I'm a pretty talkative person and I absolutely love hearing stories from my clients. In particular, I had this one girl come in who was celebrating her first wedding anniversary. As I mentioned before, I used to work on set of boudoir shoots pretty often. I had this client come in who was celebrating her first wedding anniversary. I had worked with tons of clients who would come in taking these photos for their spouse, but I never really thought to ask why, I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. But then this girl explains that her and her husband like to stick to the traditional wedding anniversary gifts. If you don't know what those are, you can look them up on Google or something. So then I asked her what the traditional gift for the first wedding anniversary is. And she said wood. Like a tree, like wood. And at the time, this absolutely genius idea just went right over my head. I had no idea what she was talking about. But I just smiled and nodded and I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So what does this have to do with that? And pretty much as the words came out of my mouth, it totally clicked. This was hands down one of my favorite stories a client ever told me. And to this day is one of my absolute favorite client stories. Her husband must be a lucky man because she was a genius and a comedian.